Many years ago, in a world once humans and monsters waged a 100-year war, but they eventually made peace and now coexist peacefully. Dr. Glenn Litbeit, a human who specializes in treating monsters, is conducting an examination on a female minotaur, which reveals her pregnancy. He runs a clinic with his lamia assistant, Saphentite Neikes. Afterwards, Glenn receives a letter from Dr. Cthulhu Squele, his mentor, requesting him to conduct physical exams on fighters at the city arena. Upon arriving, he is welcomed by Tesselia Scythia, a centaur who is the sole heiress of Scythia transportation. During Tesselia's examination, she innocently expressed a desire to marry someone like Glenn. This remark stirred jealousy within Saphi. After the examination, Tesselia's attendants, Lorne and Kay, express their concern about Tesselia to Glenn, even though he reassures them that Tesselia is physically fine. Later, Glenn is concerned as he learnt that Tesselia has not won a battle in over a month, but he finds nothing medically wrong with her. The next day, Tesselia loses another match and feels very disappointed by herself. After a while, Glenn realizes that Tesselia has never allowed herself to be fitted with steel shoes, and her hooves have worn unevenly, causing imbalance. He recommends that she gets new shoes. When she sees his fitting equipment, she gets scared and tries to resist, but her attendants and Saphi restrain her. Despite her protests, Glenn proceeds to fit her with new shoes to correct the imbalance. The next day, Tesselia starts winning battles again, and Glenn wonders if Cthulhu was testing how he would deal with a difficult patient. Later, Saphi narrates how, during the war, she met Glenn as children when she was offered as a political hostage to Glenn's father. After this initial encounter, she did not see him again until they both entered the academy to study monster medicine. Glenn and Saphi enjoy their shopping trip on the Mara waterways. They visit various stores and purchase a variety of items. As Glenn and Saphi are returning home after their shopping trip, they are approached by a mermaid singer named Lulala Highness. She offers to let them purchase a song from her and begins singing. However, despite her obvious skill, Lulala is unable to finish the song for some reason. Glenn offers to examine Lulala and takes her to a less crowded area. After conducting an examination, he diagnoses Lulala with inflamed gills, likely due to not spending enough time in the water. He recommends that she spend more time in the water, as mermaids are primarily aquatic creatures. Lulala declines Glenn's advice and insists on continuing to sing for her family's sake, and claims she will soon earn a salary singing at the Central Council Hall. Just then, a human child falls into the water and they are unable to save him. Lulala bravely jumps into the water and rescues the human child. As Saphi and Glenn concentrate on helping the human child, Lulala, with her inflamed gills, accidentally inhales water into her lungs and starts to drown. When they realize Lulala is in danger, Glenn also jumps into the water. He manages to save her by giving her a kiss to force air into her lungs, allowing her gills to expel the inhaled water. However, Glenn starts to drown, but is saved by Saphi. After Glenn provides medicine for Lulala's gills, she starts singing full-time at the council hall. Glenn and Saphi also visit to see her perform. Lulala thanks him for saving her life and begins to develop a crush on him. Sometime in the evening, a woman is chasing a bandit when suddenly she is ambushed by a group of bandits. The next day, after Dr. Glenn and Saphi finish treating a slime girl, Lady Scotty, accompanied by her loyal bodyguard Kunai Zeno, same women who was ambushed approached Glenn and Saphi with a unique request: to locate and reattach Kunai's severed right arm. As Glenn is unaware of what type of monster Kunai is, Scotty reveals that Kunai is a flesh golem created by a scientist using human corpses. Once Scotty leaves, Kunai refuses Glenn's help due to her hatred of doctors, and she decides to look for her arm on her own. Kunai notices another bandit and follows him. Glenn also heads out, and Kunai, again deceived by the bandit. Meanwhile, Glenn out into town in search of Kunai's missing arm. There he crossed paths with Tesselia, who finds Kunai's leg. Examining the leg, Glenn notices the stitches are badly degraded. Glenn runs further into town and encounters Lulala, who is holding Kunai's arm. He then uses Kunai's recovered body part to locate Kunai. Glenn begins the process of reattaching Kunai's body parts, despite her protests. Glenn takes his time, making sure each limb is securely reattached, and continues until he successfully reattaches all of them. Meanwhile, at the clinic, Safi has a conversation with her friend Arania, who comes to meet Glenn and give her a gift. After Glenn is finished, Kunai thanks him. Little did they know, the bandits had been watching them. When Glenn returns to the clinic, Safi tells him she believes that she is pregnant. As Glenn doesn't believe her, Safi reveals that she was actually hiding an abandoned harpy egg. Just then, a group of bandits attack the clinic, but Safi bravely steps in, holding them off, ensuring their safe escape from the clinic. When they run into Kunai, she explains the bandits are slavers engaged in the illicit trafficking of harpies and their eggs. They join Scotty and Lulala on the waterways, intending to strike the bandits' hideouts. Along the way, they face a surprise assault from a group of archers. Luckily, Tessalia was in close proximity, and she engaged in combat alongside her attendants to fend off the attackers. At the bandits' hideout, the leader of the bandits shows up and Kunai confronts him in combat while the others seize the chance to free the imprisoned harpies. As the group successfully located the enslaved harpies, things seemed to be going smoothly. However, a distressing moment unfolded when one of the harpies confided in Glenn about her pain. Glenn examined her and diagnosed an impacted egg due to stress, necessitating immediate care. Glenn asks Safi and Scotty to protect them while he treats her, while battling the bandits. Safi regrets hiding from Glenn her incurable illness and her family's dark history of assassination, including a past mission to eliminate Glenn's family if necessary. In the midst of the battle, Safi is poisoned by one of bandits' knife and falls unconscious. When she awakens, Glenn explains the slavers were arrested and the harpy laid her eggs safely. Safi finally mustered the courage to admit the truth to Glenn, a truth he had known all along. Overwhelmed by relief and happiness, Safi makes a playful attempt to seduce Glenn, only to pass out once more. Glenn then agrees to hold her tail until she sleeps, like when they were children. Safi hints that the incurable illness she suffers from might just be love. In response to Dr. Cthuli's request, Glenn hires Tessalia to transport them to the Harpy village for the Harpies' medical examinations and care. However, during their journey, an unexpected rockslide occurred, putting everyone in peril. In a courageous act, Kay shielded Tessalia and ended up injured in the process. Just in the nick of time, a group of Harpy villagers arrived. They swiftly carried the injured Kay to their village, providing them with the aerial assistance they needed. The group reached the Harpy village, where Glenn diagnosed Kay with a sprain caused by the earlier rockslide. Tessalia later shared with Glenn how Kay's absence had severely affected Lorna, causing significant disruptions and nearly ruining Tessalia's negotiations to employ the Harpies as air couriers, so Tessalia asks Glenn to examine Lorna. Glenn struggles until Safi suggests that Lorna, being naturally high-strung and sensitive, may feel lost without someone in charge, giving Glenn a starting point to help her. The next day, Glenn makes the strange decision to take away Lorna's control, blindfolding her and using reins. Strangely, Lorna's focus improved, though Glenn couldn't help but wonder if she found some unconventional pleasure in this arrangement. Glenn's visit to Kay, where both Kay and Lorna attempted to seduce him. They hoped it would lead to a sense of responsibility, but Glenn firmly refused. Still, Kay and Lorna held on to the desire for Glenn to become their master one day. Later, once Glenn had checked on Kay's condition, he, along with Safi and Tessalia, ventures to visit Illy, the young harpy girl whom Glenn had rescued from the clutches of the bandits. Illy has been continuously losing her feathers, and now is unable to fly. Glenn carefully examines Illy, only to conclude that she isn't sick, but was, in fact, molting, a natural process in a harpy's life. However, Illy's anger flares, and she attempts to attack Glenn, prompting Tessalia to intervene. Illy, overcome with emotion, spurred Tessalia to pursue her. Upon finding Illy, Illy reveals her past habit of flying to the arena to watch Tessalia in action. Illy then challenged Tessalia to a fight. Afterward, Tessalia reveals to Glenn and Safi that she won. When she hands Glenn a feather Illy lost during the fight, he asks Safi and Tessalia if they can help with something. The next day, Glenn, Safi, and Tessalia collected as many feathers as they could. Just then, a villager informs them that Illy ran away from the village. Night descended, enveloping Illy in a shroud of nostalgic memories from her days of soaring freely through the skies. Little did she know that Glenn, Safi, and Tessalia were on their way to find her once more. Upon reuniting with Illy, Glenn calmly revealed that he knows the real cause of her feather losses. Meanwhile, in the city of Lindworm, it is revealed that Dr. Thule had known this truth all along. Glenn reassured Illy that her current molt would bring forth her adult feathers, indicating her unique phoenix bloodline. Sometime later, Illy excitedly displays her new wings and takes flight. When one of her new feathers falls into Glenn's hand, he notes its warmth, hinting at a deeper connection to the phoenix. Meanwhile, Arania visits the clinic to see Glenn. As Glenn and Safi prepare to head home, Illy shows up covered in a sticky substance. Glenn notices that it is arachne silk and tells her to wash it off with warm water, but more harpies show up with the same issue, prompting Glenn and Safi to venture into the forest to investigate. It wasn't long before Glenn found himself ensnared in a trap, and it became evident that it was set by Arania, who then introduced herself to Glenn. Arania reveals she is there to catch Illy so she can see her rainbow wings for herself. Back in the village, an exceedingly excited Arania finally met Illy, her enthusiasm evident. Meanwhile, Safi engaged in a heated argument with Tasalia, who was also covered in arachne silk, over the matter of Arania. The following day, as Safi enjoyed the hot springs with Kay and Lorna, Arania paid a visit to Glenn for a checkup. After the examination, she invited him for a walk, but soon ensnared him in a trap. Her true intention was to seduce Glenn so she could be closer to Safi. However, Tasalia managed to arrive in the nick of time, determined to put a halt to Arania's plans. Arania states she and Tasalia are the same in terms of what they want, but Tasalia vehemently disagrees with her claims. Just as they are about to fight each other, Safi shows up. She tells them Glenn has no time for courtship before Glenn suddenly collapses, gasping for breath. Later that night, Safi tells Glenn she loves him. They are then interrupted when they hear tremors caused by a giga, and the village chief warns them about an approaching threat, a massive entity heading for their village. As the giant goddess drew nearer, fear gripped the village. In this dire situation, Tasalia takes charge and gets everyone to work together to evacuate the village, sends Illy to Lindworm to speak with Lady Scotty. As the village prepares for evacuation, Safi and Glenn can't find Tasalia among the evacuating villagers. Meanwhile, Tasalia is determined to confront the giant alone and ensure the villagers' safety. However, she is stopped by Safi and Glenn, who decide to stand by her side in the confrontation. With tension thick in the air, the colossal goddess suddenly emerged, her demeanor betraying a sense of distress as she appeared to be desperately searching for the doctor. Meanwhile, in Lindworm, Scotty tells Illy about the goddess, Dione. Back in the village, Glenn realizes Dione has a head cold and offers her medicine, and the harpies make friends with her, especially Illy. They also request Arania to make her some new warmer clothes. The group heads back to Lindworm to reopen the clinic, and Illy delivers a letter, revealing she joined Tasalia's company. Glenn asks Tasalia out to dinner. During their meal, Safi is caught spying, leading to a declaration from both of them not to lose in the battle for Glenn's heart. Shortly afterward, as everyone gathers at the Marrow Waterways for a commemoration ceremony, Glenn detects something amiss with Scotty's tail, and in the midst of her speech, Lady Scotty collapses before the crowd, casting a shadow of concern over Lindworm. At the city's central hospital, Glenn and Safi meet their mentor, Dr. Cthulhi. She is happy to see Glenn again, stirs feelings of jealousy in Safi. Cthulhi thanks Glenn for caring for Scotty, but explains to Glenn and Safi that despite being a dragon, Scotty has a rare condition that will eventually kill her, and she has no interest in curing. Kunai later visits Glenn and asks him to help Scotty. Later that night, Glenn sneaks inside Scotty's room while Kunai and Safi wait outside. Once he's inside the room, Glenn hears Scotty's voice for the first time and finds she has the appearance of a young girl. Scotty reluctantly agrees to be examined and reveals a tumor on her chest that has begun infiltrating her veins and altering her blood flow. She believes it is karma for her dragon ancestors leaving the realm of gods and for her actions during the Great War. As Glenn continued his examination, it caused Scotty to break down in tears. Just at that moment, Kunai and Safi entered the room, creating a misunderstanding. However, Scotty quickly intervened to prevent Kunai from taking any action. Glenn asked Dr. Cthulhi for permission to perform a complicated surgery, and after hearing his heartfelt reasons, she agreed and expressed her gratitude. However, she worries Scotty will still need convincing, and they require at least one more surgeon. Glenn suggests that he knows someone who could assist in the procedure. Glenn then asks Arania for her sewing skills to help repair the damaged veins. Arania refuses at first but relents after realizing she would get to wear a nurse's uniform like Safi. Undaunted by the challenge, Glenn begins his preparation. Kunai makes an earnest attempt to persuade Scotty to undergo the surgery, but her efforts proved unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Glenn visits the Kuklo workshop to talk to the boss. Glenn encounters Meme, a young girl employed there. While they were walking together, an embarrassing incident occurred, leaving Meme feeling flustered and highlighting her lack of confidence. Upon reaching the boss, Glenn makes his request for surgical tools, and the boss assigns the task of creating the needles to Meme, much to her chagrin. Later, Arania is at the clinic where she practices for the surgery with kunai. Cthulhu and Glenn go to inspect and approve the newly crafted surgical tools. Meme is in the drafting room trying to review the needles when the spinning wheel catches her eye. The next day, Glenn and Safi hurry to the workshop after receiving word from Illy that Meme had collapsed there. Glenn swiftly transported Meme to the clinic and inquired about what she had been doing. It became apparent that she had succumbed to exhaustion and vertigo due to her recent efforts. Meme feels sad for not doing her work properly. They then return to the workshop, where the boss decides to take over the work, but Glenn says that Meme has already figured it out. Meme unveils her brilliant plan to create stronger, thinner needles that are cost-effective and easily mass-produced. Her idea was met with unanimous approval and earned her applause from everyone. As Glenn heads off to once again convince Scotty, Safi, and Arania wish him luck, Glenn makes his way to the Central Council Hall, determined to sway Scotty's heart and convince her to accept the surgery. Meanwhile, Safi, Arania, and Tesselia have a girls' night out at a pub. Upon their return to the clinic, Safi catches Arania in the act of stealing a dragon scale. As Arania tries to make a hasty escape, she is intercepted and halted by Tesselia and Safi. Rather than reporting Arania to the authorities, Safi and Tesselia opted for a heartfelt conversation with her. In a surprising turn of events, Safi and Tesselia conduct some tests and reveal to Arania that she has fallen in love with Glenn. Sometime later, Glenn makes another attempt to talk to Scotty and persuade her to consider the surgery. She explains why she refuses to have the surgery, explaining her fulfilled dream of a city where humans and monsters coexisted. However, when Glenn reminds her that she deserves to live a happy life and experience various things, just like any normal girl, Scotty decides to have the surgery after all. On the crucial night of the surgery, Glenn, Dr. Thule, Safi, and Arania collaborate to perform the intricate procedure on Scotty. The task proves challenging due to Scotty's fire dragon physiology, but with their combined efforts, Cthulhu and Glenn successfully remove the tumor from Scotty's heart, providing her with a chance at a healthier life. While all of Lindworm holds a vigil, hoping for its success. The next morning, it is revealed that the surgery was a success, a moment of triumph and celebration that echoes throughout the city. Following the surgery, Scotty arrives at a ceremony, revealing her face and delivering her inaugural speech in her own voice. She then decides to visit the clinic to meet Glenn. Meanwhile, at the clinic, Glenn attends to an ill Safi, utilizing his treatment method that leaves her feeling somewhat uncomfortable. When Glenn leaves the clinic to make a house call, he runs into Scotty and Kunai, and to his surprise, Scotty addresses him as Big Brother. It seems their carriage is broken. Unexpectedly, Meme shows up and fixes the carriage. Scotty thanks Glenn and Meme by giving them 2 large barrels of wine. Glenn has to attend a house call, so he leaves Meme to watch over the barrels. She feels uneasy in the crowd. Back at the clinic, Arania looks after Safi. In the Harpy village, Dione lends a hand to the Harpies and even shares some fruits with them. When Glenn returns, he has Tesselia, Kay, and Lorna transport the barrels for them. In the clinic, Arania playfully teased Safi about what Glenn might be up to when she isn't around. Illy and her friends show up. They give Safi and Arania some food from their village in the mountains. Just then, Glenn arrives and he is mobbed by the girls. Outside, Tesselia awaits him with a haul of food, and he reveals that everyone kept giving him food. Scotty, Kunai, along with workshop members also show up. Later that night, a party takes place. Safi, Arania, and Tesselia playfully perceive Scotty as another contender for Glenn's love. In the end, the girls engage in a playful chase for Glenn's love, adding a spirited and lighthearted touch to the festivities.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.